Welcome back to Real Estate Appraisal Principles and Procedures. This is your instructor, Matt Boxberger. And in session 6, we'll cover real estate transactions. This is chapter 4 in the book. And I start with a note, like the last chapter, there's more here in terms of detail than appraisers typically have to deal with. Certainly lawyers and real estate agents are going to need more of those details. But what I'll try to do is put emphasis on the sections that appraisers need to know in practice and give you the same advice I did for last week to read through and understand the terms and the processes that are covered, but not memorize them. Use this as a foundation that you'll build on in the more advanced courses. And in the quiz I'll create for this chapter and the questions that will be used in the final, they'll be the ones that we stress as important and applicable more typically in appraisal practice. So in this chapter that covers the real estate transaction, there's 3 major areas. There's the contracts, the deeds, and then leases, which are a specific kind of contract. And so as I say, we'll cover the elements of the contract, the requirements for a valid contract, and the terminology, which again, there'll be a lot of terminology here, and I'll focus on the ones that I think are important for us in appraisal practice. We'll talk about the requirements for deeds, which are similar to contracts, and the types of deeds that are used for real estate. And then with leases as well, talk about the types and a little bit of terminology there. So we'll start with contracts, and in a real estate transaction there are a number of contracts that are involved. Certainly the sales contract is central, but there's a listing agreement initially between the seller and the licensed agent if they have an agent working for them. There's on the other side the buyer's representation agreement, which is between the buyer and the buyer's real estate agent, as well as financing contracts, escrow agreements. As an appraiser, you can have a contract to appraise the property as well. And so the elements of the contract that we'll talk about here, again, will be focused centrally around that offer to sell the real estate. And so a contract, regardless of what it's for, has a number of elements or requirements that have to be in place for the contract to be valid. The last one, as we'll see, is optional depending on the type of contract, but let's walk through these. The first element for the contract to be valid is that the parties have legal capacity, and what that means is under the law, are they able to enter into a contract to sell or to buy? The typical exclusions here are kind of at the age or at the ends of the age spectrum. Typically a minor cannot enter into a contract unless they're an emancipated minor, but they have to be of age. They have to be an adult, and they have to be mentally sound. So at the other end of the spectrum, if there's an aged person that's not mentally sound, they can't enter into a contract and the contract be valid. The note I make there is that if the parties don't have the legal capacity, the contract is either void, meaning it never was in effect and has no effect, or voidable, meaning at some point the party that's not capable of entering into the contract can void it. The second element is that there has to be an offer and an acceptance. There's 2 parties to the contract, and each of them has to do a specific thing. So an offer is made, it has to be accepted freely and voluntarily. In other words, there can't be duress, threat of force or violence or some other penalty for the offer, for the acceptance to be valid. Now, rather than accepting, the other party can make a counteroffer where they turn around and create an offer that the original party can accept or counteroffer back. So in real estate, you'll typically see an offer. The potential buyer may decide to make a counteroffer back, and then the potential seller may counter with another counteroffer back, and until there is an acceptance or they agree that they can't come to acceptance. The third element for a contract to be valid is that there has to be a lawful object. That means an objective. It can't be a contract to do something that's illegal or otherwise prohibited by law. You can't enforce that kind of contract. There has to be consideration. As I said, there's two parties to a contract, and so typically the payment will be money or services, but there has to be something from each side for the contract to be valid. And finally, for some contracts, they have to be in writing. The contracts, or the types of contracts that have to be in writing, are specified by the statute of frauds. That's a term you should be familiar with, particularly because it doesn't mean the common sense understanding of fraud. As I say there, the statute of frauds is a term from the English common law, not meaning fraud in the typical sense of deceiving someone. It talks about the types of contracts that have to be in writing. And for a real estate transaction where real estate is sold or bought or leased for more than 1 year, it has to be in writing. A contract with an agent to represent you as the seller or the buyer also has to be in writing. Now, there's additionally some other terms or provisions that are typically found in a real estate contract, and in your book these are covered on page 102. You can review that. Here in the Silicon Valley, there's two different kinds of standard forms, and so sometimes in residential real estate you'll see a requirement that the offer be made on the PRDS form, for example. And there's contract language that's typically required in real estate contracts. It touches on this a bit in the book as well, but again, I'll point you to that to read through and review, to be generally familiar with it, but we won't drill down in terms of more discussion or testing on those aspects. So now a few other facts that are important to understand around the contract in real estate is that the counteroffer, which I mentioned, rejects the original offer, and so the counteroffer will typically incorporate a lot of terms of the original offer, but it's important to understand that by making a counteroffer, the original offer is rejected, and that party is under no obligation then to accept or consider the counteroffer. So that starts the process fresh. The offer can be revoked if it hasn't been accepted yet, and sometimes this will be seen as well in real estate. And so as an appraiser, when you're looking at the contract, when you're doing a purchase appraisal, it's important to make sure that the offerer and the offeree have both signed the contract to establish that it hasn't been revoked. You need to look if there are counter offers noted and make sure that those are signed by both sides as well. The third term there, the statute of limitations, typically you won't have to deal with as an appraiser, but that's just another of these statute terms. It specifies how long one of the parties has to sue or enforce terms of the contract or to demand specific performance if there's a breach of the terms of the contract. So just be familiar with that term as well. Now, assuming the contract is made, then it can be completed or discharged is the term in a number of ways that are detailed there. Performance is the most typical. Both parties perform as they agreed in the contract. Assignment would say that one of the parties, if it's allowed in the contract, can assign or transfer their rights or obligations to another party. Breach, as I mentioned earlier, is where one of the parties doesn't perform and then the terms of the contract kick in. Either the contract's canceled or there's some compensation or consideration that is due to the other party if you don't perform, if the buyer doesn't come through with the financing or complete the agreement. They may surrender their money that they've put in. Rescission is an agreement by both parties to cancel the contract, or a release by one party to release the other from the obligations in the contract. Novation is a term that means there's a new contract that replaces the original contract, and reformation is the term if there was an error made and that is corrected in the contract. Again, those last two are additional terms but not particularly important in appraisal work. And then just a note on this or and e suffixes. The way to remember that is the one that ends in the .or. The or is the one that's doing the action. The one that ends in the EE or the E sound is the one receiving the action. So you'll see, for example, the lessor and the lessee. The lessor is the landlord who leases the property. The lessee is the tenant who agrees to receive the property. The mortgagor and the mortgagee, the trustor and the trustee, the offeror and the offeree in a purchase contract. So the potential buyer is offering to buy, and the potential seller is the one who can accept that offer or not. So now we'll move on to talk about deeds, and a deed is the document that conveys the title to real estate. Like the contract, there are requirements for a deed to be valid. It can't simply be done and called a deed if it doesn't meet the legal requirements. It has to be in writing, and it has to have a sufficient description of the parties and the property to be able to be legally enforceable. Typically this would be the parties making sure, if it's titled in the husband and wife's name, that both are there, and as we learned in our earlier lessons, the legal description of the property has to be complete and specific. As with a contract, there's a requirement that the grantor, the person transferring the real estate, has to be legally capable of executing the deed, and there has to be a granting clause. That's a requirement for some specific legal words like the word grant to be there to make sure that it's clear that the grantor intends to do this. The deed has to be signed by the grantor, although it doesn't have to be signed by the grantee. It has to be delivered and accepted by the grantee. So what this means is, although probably not in California, there may be a case where there's some land that has very little value but a lot of taxes due on it. That can't just be unilaterally granted or given or transferred to someone else. That someone else, a grantee, has to accept the deed and accept the grant for it to be valid. So now with deeds, there are a fair number, and so on the next slide we'll look at those. Here's the list. At the top, the grant deed is certainly the most common one. That's typically how real estate is transferred. You'll see in the book, and I guess this is on page 106, some more details around this. The grant deed, as it says, doesn't guarantee that the grantor holds title. There's some implied warranties. The next one, the quitclaim deed, has no implied warranties. So that's saying I might have an interest, and if I do, I'm granting it to you. You'll see this used sometimes when there are co-signers on a loan. They'll use a quitclaim deed to transfer any rights they may have had. Sometimes in divorce actions you'll see this as well, where it doesn't imply that the spouse necessarily had rights to the property. Maybe it was owned by one spouse before, but the quitclaim deed says if there were any rights, those are transferred. The warranty deed, that was another type that's similar to the grant deed, but not typically used here. The bargain and sale deed, again, is a kind of a specialized one that's used in some areas, but typically you won't run into. The trust deed you'll see with mortgages. So that's the deed that's used to transfer the property to, in California, what's called a trustee. So the person that, if I buy property and I take a loan out, then I am the trustor. I transfer that deed to a third party, to the trustee, who holds it for a beneficiary. That's the lender. And so then the trustee doesn't get involved until either I pay off the loan, in which case there's a reconveyance deed that transfers the property back to me, or if I default and the beneficiary needs to foreclose, then it would be the trustee that handles that, transferring the deed back to beneficiary. The sheriff's deed is used if there's a foreclosure action and there's no warranties implied. So you'll hear about properties bought at a sheriff's sale may be encumbered with liens or other problems. So there's no guarantees about the title there. And then the tax deed, if the government takes back the property because taxes haven't been paid, then that's used to transfer it to a new owner who will pay those back taxes. So again, I think the key ones to remember are the terms, or the grant deed, certainly the quitclaim deed, and the trust and reconveyance deeds. Those are the ones you'll typically see in real estate appraisal practice. So now the next slide, titled Recordation, means recording the deed, and this typically is done, although as you'll see, it's not a requirement for the deed to be valid. The acknowledgement is the process where the grantor, the person transferring the property's signature, is validated. Typically that means it's notarized to acknowledge that the grantor is in fact the person that has the title to the property and is entitled to transfer it. Recording makes the transfer public. It notifies the world that the title has been transferred, and it creates or maintains what's called the chain of title to the property. So each time the property is sold, it needs to be insured. Typically the title insurance companies do this and say that yes, the person granting it or transferring it does have the rights to it, that there's no one else that's recorded another document that asserts that they have the rights to the property. In recording as well, the grantor's name needs to match what was the grantee's name in the previous transaction. So the property was conveyed to a party, and it has to be that same party that transfers it. That party could be a real person's name, it could be a fictitious name, it could be a business name, but it needs to match what the property's owner's name is currently recorded as. So now the third area of the chapter talks about lease agreements, and as I mentioned earlier, leases are a specific kind of contract. They transfer the right to use the property rather than all the rights of ownership which you'd have in a sales contract. So using our or and e suffixes earlier, the terms involved or the parties involved in a lease, there's the lessor, who's the landlord, who transfers the right to use the property to the lessee, the tenant. Once that's done, the lessor holds the leased fee interest in the property, and the lessee holds the leasehold interest in the property. So again, in appraising, those are terms and parties that you want to be familiar with when you're dealing with appraisals, particularly in commercial properties. Now, a lot of leases are residential leases, and those have the strictest consumer, the lessee protections. There's the fair housing law protections that are in place before a lease is even done that require certain conduct by landlords in terms of being fair and offering the property to anyone and not discriminating. There's restrictions and requirements around security deposits, around the eviction process, what has to be disclosed in terms of the property condition and other requirements. So the key point there is that with residential leases, those have the most strict requirements and limitations on the lessors, on the landlords. Residential leases, if they're over a year, need to be in writing. If they're under a year, they don't need to be. They're typically fairly straightforward in terms of there's a dollar amount that's paid each month, and that dollar amount is fixed. With commercial leases, which we'll look at here on the next slide, those terms are more variable. There's expense sharing, the gross lease versus the net lease, where in a gross lease the landlord will pay all or most of the expenses, the big ones being the property tax, the maintenance of the property and the insurance, or there's the net, or what they call typically the triple net, where the tenant not only pays a certain amount per month in terms of their base rent, they also pay for the taxes, the maintenance, and the insurance that's required on the property. So all those are passed through. So the amount that the tenant pays is a base rent, and then these additional charges for the expenses that the landlord incurs. Some commercial leases also include some income sharing percentage, where a percentage of the sales constitutes rent as well. Now, another type of lease that's typically done in the commercial world is what's called a ground lease. What's unique with the ground lease is typically for a very long term. The maximum that a state will allow, typically say 99 years here in California. And as the title implies, the ground lease is initially typically just for the ground, for the land, and then the lessee, the person that signs the agreement, builds the structures. Those structures, as we learned earlier, become fixtures, and they belong to the owner at the end of the lease. But after that long period, they may not be worth much or may not be viable in the market and would be torn down in any event. But it's important to understand that the lessee doesn't own the land, they're leasing it. They build the improvements, but that those then become part of the land that goes back to the landlord. The last point I highlight here, just kind of interesting, the Stanford Shopping Center is one of the larger and more interesting ground leases here in the Silicon Valley. That goes through 2054. Stanford University owns the land. The university gets about 25% of the rent paid by the retail tenants. The retail tenants pay that rent to the lessee, and that's currently Simon Property Group. I believe they're a big shopping mall developer. So they may own some shopping malls where they own it free and clear, the land. In this case, they bought the ground lease, the improvements. They bought the income flow from the tenants from whoever owned it prior to them, but part of their expenses then are paying this ground lease amount to Stanford University, which includes the percentage of the rent paid. And why that's interesting, I've seen other ground leases where the terms may have been made 50 years ago when inflation was only assumed to be 1 or 2% a year, and so rather than tying the increase in annual or periodic rent increases to a cost of living index, they may have been set at 1 or 2 or 3% a year, and during a period large inflation, the land became a lot more valuable, but that original lessor is still getting a way below market rent price because of how that was structured. So with this long term, sometimes there's some interesting values there between the leasehold and the leased fee estates, which are in place for 99 years or whatever's left of that 99-year period. So with that, we'll end lecture 6, and I will talk to you next time. Thank you.